the soul mirror where reflection meets restoration. Today, we are welcoming the deeply gifted Vandana, a divine channel and energy healer whose voice alone feels like a balm for the souls from Reiki to galactic guidance. So, take a breath. This episode is your nervous system's gentle exhale. So, welcome, Vandana. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Oh, thank you so much, Shreya. I'm honored to be here with you today.
So, in your journey as a healer, what have
Yes.
you found to be the root of most nervous system dysregulation?
Yeah, the answer to that question is quite simple, yet it's also very profound. And it's also kind of like a shock to many people because most people blame themselves for emotional dysregulation, which just means um, that your emotions are so big that they overwhelm you, and then you suffer with stress, with pain, with all different kinds of dysfunctions or dysfunctional behavior, addictions, all of that. So the main reason, the root cause of dysregulation is trauma, unresolved trauma, unhealed trauma, and this can go back way before we even have language to use words, right? So it's pre-verbal, and many times it's also passed on to us, anxiety, stress, trauma in the womb. So this is also pre-birth, and it's something that depending on the person's nature, if you're a very sensitive person and you experience a traumatic event as a child, let's say, and you didn't have the support or you didn't feel safe or protected while the stressful event was happening, that's when it can actually linger into your adult years. And it could actually, you can have those symptoms forever if we really don't learn how to reparent, so to speak, our own inner child.
Yes, and thank you for sharing this with our audience. And
Of
is
course.
it more often emotional overwhelm or ancestral imprinting or just both?
Well, it's actually both. And there are some techniques that I can actually share with your audience, with your listeners, that will help to immediately calm and soothe your nervous system within minutes. But it's both. It's a combination of both. Um, it really depends on how sensitive, how empathic you are. And it's mostly it's genetic. A lot of it is genetic, but then also a lot of it is learned and experienced as we're growing up, especially the first 7 years, the developmental years, right? And if we had a dysfunctional home environment with parents who are not consistently loving or affectionate or safe, then if something traumatic or shocking to our nervous system happened, that's when those symptoms, complex PTSD, it's called usually, that's when it could really last way well into adulthood.
Yes, that layering of past and present stressors
Yeah.
feel like so real, especially for sensitive souls who absorb so much. And
Yes.
also,
The May I just add that
yes, yes,
I think it's challenging when it's more challenging when we don't have the protection and the emotional safety net growing up. And so, yeah, I was going to say something else, but it'll come back to me. But yeah, it's really important to not get into like the blame or the shame game, but just take a personal inventory about the past and just kind of reflect and maybe work with a counselor or a Reiki master or a healer, whoever it is, a coach that you feel comfortable and safe with. And it's really about accepting that, not, getting out of denial about it. Because I think majority of people mistake the symptoms and the struggles, and they blame themselves. But we don't want to blame ourselves, but we also don't want to blame our ancestors or our parents or grandparents, whoever brought us up, our caregivers. So we want to move beyond like the blame game, right? We don't want to, because that's going to just keep us more stuck, and that's not helpful or respectful to anybody, because we know that hurt people. And so, if you were hurt, most likely the adults in your life when you were a child that hurt you were also hurt. And it gets just passed down from generation to generation. So it's a generational wound, really. But there is something we can do about it, but it's very important uh, to just try and be open and accept that there's nothing wrong with you. It's just your upbringing and the after effects of it, and that can lead to difficulties in all of your relationships with your children, with your parents, with your coworkers, etc. So it's just important to get some help and just to ask like for the support, because everybody needs support, especially in the times that we're living in right now.
Yes, so beautiful that you said. And also, you blend spiritual practices with somatic tools. Why is it essential to involve the body in energetic healing?
Yeah, because we are all born with the gift of having a body, right? But most of us are in our heads. We're not in our head. We're not in our bodies. We're not in our hearts. And so we need to move that stuck energy that accumulates in our cells, in our muscles, in our organs, and it's even in our DNA, right? So all of that stuck energy, all the heaviness, the density, the intensity of all those difficult feelings that were never processed, they collect, they're stored, they're embedded in our tissues, in our body system. So it's very, very important to actually to move that energy. We have to be more present, and we have to really be grounded and feel like, that feel like we have that natural movement, that flow of energy. And that's in all of our chakras, right? So we can't avoid being in our bodies, even though sometimes it can actually be physically painful to be in our bodies if we have painful symptoms because we didn't address the emotional root cause. But so that's the reason why we were spirit in human form, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
And it's great to have a body, because not every soul is lucky enough to be incarnated, and to have a body, because when we have a body, we have freedom, we have movement, we can experience, joy and all of the positive feelings and emotions that we're entitled to. So very important to allow our bodies to be like a divine light instrument, right? Yeah.
Yes. And also, what happens when we bypass the body and stay only in the light work zone?
Yeah, that's called spiritual bypassing, which I'm sure you've heard of that terminology. But there is no way to really skip a step in our own personal evolution, in our transformation and our inner transformation. It's very easy to get addicted to being outside of this realm, being outside of our bodies, where it feels really good. We're in like the fifth dimension or higher, and we experience the sense of space and grace and just like bliss, right? And we're communicating, we're channeling our angels, our spirit guides, and or maybe we're traveling to the Pleiades or some other planetary system, star system like Star Sirius. And yes, it is very important to do that, but also we have to take that energy back with us to the earth, right? So we have to embody our that energy. And if we try to bypass what's happening in the world and within ourselves, then we're never going to really heal, and if we do, it'll just be a temporary fix. So that's why it's really important to embody the state of presence. So we're actually fully available. We're in our bodies, but we're also in an expanded state, right? So we are open to communication and helpful messages from the spirit world. So,
Yes.
and just like a shaman, we can travel interdimensionally, we can travel between worlds, and we can receive um, messages, but also even parts of ourselves, like pieces of ourselves that we've left in some other timeline or lifetime. Um, and so we have the ability, we all have the ability to do that. And so yeah, it's important not to bypass, because then you're going to miss out on a lot, and you won't really be fully present to experience joy, which is our birthright. You know, if you're somewhere else, you're stuck in the past, you're regretting the past, or you're in fear of the future, you know? So that's why it's like important to be here now, like Eckhart Tolle says.
Yes. That's a potent reminder that real integration doesn't happen in just one layer of our being.
Oh, yes. We have multiple layers because we're multidimensional. We don't just exist in this plane of existence. We exist, everywhere.
Yes. And also, your client often describe profound shifts. So, what does that transformation typically look or feel like in the nervous system?
Just a sense of calmness, I would say, a sense of peace, a sense of acceptance, greater self acceptance, self compassion, being kinder, more gentle, more aware, more conscious of your gifts, loving yourself, caring for yourself better, all of these things, just feeling lighter in general, more open hearted. And so sometimes people, my clients experience like the chills, or they may experience heat, or just like a feeling of release of like a lot of heavy barriers have been melted, right? Like the blocks have just been dissolved. The blocks that they were feeling either physically or energetically, right? So it can show up in a lot of different ways, but it definitely helps to sleep better. A lot of my clients tell me they just slept like a baby after having years of insomnia and not being able to fall asleep, and also to stay asleep all night long, right? Because that's when we recharge our batteries. So it's very, very important to have a good night's sleep. So if you're in a state of constant panic, worry, anxiety, obviously we can't really show up as our, in we can't really be a contribution to helping ourselves or others. So yeah, those are just some of the symptoms when your nervous system is regulated. Basically, all of your organs also function better. There's a smooth flow of energy through your meridians, your chakras, your nadis, and so you have a lot more energy.
That's wonderful.
It
And
is.
and you have received darshan from Mother Amma. So, how
Yes.
has that sacred transmission influenced how you hold space for others?
Yes, thank you for the reminder. That was probably close to 14 years ago, I think. Um, and I've had several, I mean, I was seeing her, receiving her blessing, her darshan, her hug, for many, many years. The first year I didn't go was last year. And then this year, I don't think she was coming back to where I am in the world. But what I noticed right away is every time I went, first of all, I never had the greatest relationship or the closest relationship with my mother, with my physical mother, my birth mother. So the first time I received a hug, it was like finally like, feeling loved, feeling seen and soothed. And like, I felt like I was a baby again. Like she was holding me in her arms, on her bosom. And it was just, the most tender, like heart opening experience I ever had. And one year I remember when I received her blessings, my solar plexus just really like it totally flew, like broke open, whatever, like whatever the feeling of the, like pressure there, or which, made me feel that I have to try very hard, uh, to get what I wanted, all of that, kind of left me. And I felt like it was just blown open. The solar plexus is your abdomen, your stomach. So, it's your power center, it's your center of your true identity. And so if you feel disempowered, which I have been feeling for many years, like that's how I grew up, where I didn't have the right to really express my feelings. Whenever I felt angry or I wanted to share my feelings, I was always suppressed, right? So when I went to see her, my solar plexus was definitely cleared of a lot of those kinds of like imprints, energetic imprints that made me leak my energy. So that was just one example, well, two examples actually. Uh, and just the feeling of being held, you know, I felt like that changed everything for me. That really shifted me, where I had a lot more peace, much more peace. Um, and also I feel that it healed um, the version of me, like my divine feminine aspects, which is about receiving. So it allowed me actually little by little to receive um, a lot more gratitude, to embody gratitude, but also to receive everything I've been working all my life for, right? Because if you have a block and you can't receive, then that really affects the quality of your life, right? So you can't really receive anything that you're asking for. So all of those things together, I would say, is my Alma tributes.
Yes, that is so, so beautiful. And thank you for sharing your story with us. And do you feel the nervous system can be repatterned simply through presence and love?
Well, yes, but a lot more than that. That's why I teach what's called trauma tapping, which is connected to somatic healing, also something called havening. And that's all like actually self touch, kind of like Reiki. It's really touching different parts of your body, different parts of your acupoints or your meridians, around the head, the forehead, the eyes, all of those points. And also just brushing off your all of the energy that we've accumulated around our neck and shoulders. Like there are certain techniques and exercises that I share with my clients. And a lot of it is based on emotional freedom technique, EFT. So a lot of it is just tapping those areas, but also massaging or rubbing those areas. So you really feel like you're in your body. You're totally back in your body. You're not kind of like floating in outer space, right? Without a home, because our home is really our body. And so yeah, so love and presence is important, but there are actually points that you can touch on your body, on your face and your body, that will actually immediately calm down and re-regulate the nervous system, as well as the vagus nervous system, which is the largest nerve in our bodies, right? And that regulates the functioning of our organs, especially our digestive system and our immune system, right? So we have many different kinds of systems. So that, I mean, only takes a few minutes. It can be with spoken words, where I take people through a journey and affirmations to release and clear the trauma that they've been holding, that they didn't even know they've been holding all their lives. Or it can be done in silence as well if the trauma is very severe or recent, and the wounds are fresh and raw. So those are the ways that I work with clients, and also in groups in my classes that I offer every single week on Zoom.
Yes, there is something undeniably healing about being in the field of someone who's grounded in divine kindness. And
Yes.
thank you for sharing this. What is one soothing practice they can start with right now?
Yes, I was going to share that with you. I would say to kind of um, connect every day to your higher power, or some people call this your our I am presence. It's our higher selves, right? Our greater selves. But also to, your favorite guide or guardian or deity. And bring your hands together. Would some people understand this as the namaste position? And what this does is when you unite your left and right hand together in front of your heart space or in front of your third eye, you can do that too. What it does is it reunites, it kind of brings you together, brings your mind and your body together. So you're just one divine instrument, right? And then you take a deep breath, you raise your hands, you gaze up to the sky, right? No matter how bad you're feeling, how bad, how sad, how mad, when you do this, you hold that breath for a long time. You gaze all the way up. You try to put on a little smile, even if you don't feel like it. And then you hold the breath for a few seconds, and then you just release your hands at your side slowly. And you're dropping all the weight on your shoulders. And you do that a few times. And then what you want to do is you want to rub your hands together and also include some rocking and swaying back and forth. So you're kind of moving a little bit and you're rubbing your palms together because the palms have hundreds of chakras there. So what you're doing is you're really activating your healing hands, and you might feel like some tingling sensations, and you kind of rock side to side or forward and backwards at the same time. And this automatically immediately calms the nervous system when we do this, when we rub our hands together. You can actually take a crystal or a stone or a little pearl, or you can just imagine that you're holding a very precious jewel, like, or a pearl, like I said, between the palms of your hand. As you are sweeping the palms of your hands together, you're rubbing them, up and down or around in a circle. You don't want to crush that pearl, but you don't want to drop it. So your hands are always touching each other. And you can try this too, as I'm describing how to do it. And then after you do this for a few minutes, what you can do is crisscross your arms, your hands, and your arms and hands over the opposite shoulder. Okay. And then stay there for a moment, take a nice deep breath through your nose and out through your mouth. And you do that twice. Right. And then you just basically are going to brush down in one sweeping long motion from the top of your shoulders to your elbows. And you just keep doing this, probably about 21 times is the magic number. And you can even continue doing this to calm yourself down and your inner child and start again, but this time from the shoulder all the way down to the hands, to the wrists, and both sides of the hands. And then you just shake out any tension, any stress that you've been holding in your wrists and your fingers and hands, right? And that in itself, and that only took less than 5 minutes, should give you a sense of peace, but also like restoration and rejuvenation. So it almost is like a reset, right? It's an energetic reset. And you can just do this anytime. You can do it when you're traveling. You can do it if you're on a work break, go to the bathroom, step away for a few moments, go outside to the park, and you can do this for yourself, and nobody will really notice. And yeah, that's one of the main ways that you could really calm yourself down very, very quickly to recover, a sense of energy, to get back your sanity. And there's also the trauma tapping, which would take a little bit longer to explain, but yeah, that is something that really works well for
Thank you
most
for
people.
Yes. Thank you for sharing this so much accessible practice with our listeners. And thank you for joining us in this
Of
conversation.
course.
This is a wonderful conversation with you. And if our
Beautiful.
listeners want to connect with you, then what's the best way?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Shreya. The best way to reach me is on my website, which is Vandana. I'll spell my name. This is the name that Amma gave me. It's a very high vibrational name, very holy, very sacred. So it's V like victory, A-N like Nancy, D like David, A-N-A, Vandana Light Healing.com. I have a contact us form. Have a free gift when you visit my website as well. And that's the best way to reach me. You can also find me on Facebook on my YouTube channel, which is the same, Vandana Light Healing. And I also have a podcast called Adult Child in Recovery. And that's also on my YouTube channel by the same name, Vandana Light Healing. So thank you for asking.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and I will make sure to attach all these details and links below so that the listeners can find them easily and get in touch with you, because you're a
Yay.
wonderful person, and thank you for sharing all your knowledge,
Oh,
experiences, and stories with us.
thank you, Shreya. It was really an honor
Reminded us.
to you.
Thank you so much. And listeners, Vandana reminded us that healing isn't about fixing, it's about remembering the innate calm. Whether through breath, visualization, or presence, your nervous system is listening. So start small, trust the shifts, and always return to the sanctuary within.